Hello guys, it's Downshifting Kiwi here on a beautiful autumn morning. Today I'm going to be taking the TW up into the Tararua Ranges. So if you look over there at the ranges, I hope the GoPro can show this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Up north, there's some big windmills, and you see that gorge? Well, north of that, there's some big windmills. North of the gorge where the big windmills are is the Ruahine Ranges. And south of the gorge, where the smaller windmills are, is the Tararua Ranges. So I'm gonna ride through Ashurst, get some fuel, and then ride through the gorge and ride up the eastern slope of the Tararua Ranges, up to where the small windmills are. I've done it before, it's a really nice ride. It's quite a big climb. I imagine there's about 400 meters of vertical climbing. But while I'm going to ride out there, I'm going to talk about the story of why and how I got into motorbikes. So pretty much when I was about 15, or just before 16 years old, I started to do some research into motorcycles. And the reason for that is, since I was a little kid, I used to see groups of Harley riders ride past. Sometimes up to 200 bikers will rocket past our cars on their loud Harley Davidsons, or I see sport bikes zipping to and between traffic. And that made me think motorbikes were really cool. So ever since I was a little kid, I've always wanted to ride motorbikes. It's just how it was, really. But it wasn't until I was about 15, or just before I was 16 years old, that I started to really get interested and actually think about buying one. So I used to ride from my house down to the airfield every weekend, both days. And it's about a 5k ride on open roads. And I didn't really used to enjoy riding that because the roads really skinny, and the cars don't give a fuck about bicycles. So pretty much every weekend I'll have a situation where a car will go past too close and I felt endangered. So I thought, hey, if I buy a motorbike, I might solve the situation. I know motorbikes aren't as safe as cars, but they must be a lot safer than a push bike from my experience. So I told my parents about the idea, and they said, no, you're not getting a fucking motorbike, cunt. And they said, there's no way you're getting a motorbike until you turn 18 and leave home. So I was like, okay. But I still did research into Trade Me, and I saw some cheap motorbikes. And the first kind of motorbike I thought I was going to get was a Honda CB125. And it's kind of like the Honda's it's the smallest commuter bike slash learner bike. And I was pretty keen to get one of these. I read heaps of reviews on it, and I watched a lot of YouTube videos about the motorbike. And while I was watching these YouTube videos, I stumbled across motovloggers, and the first one being Walterific. And I believe the first video of his I watched was Chick Pickup 2, and right now I think it's got a couple million views, but back then it probably only had 100 to 200,000 views. So I watched this video, and I just realized from then on that I have to buy a motorbike. It looks so much fun. So Walterific is kind of responsible for me having motorbikes, which is pretty fucking cool. We got his Walterific key tag as a symbol of how he got me into it, pretty much. So I did more research on Trade Me, and I saw the Suzuki GN250, and from the reviews I read and all the YouTube videos, it was quite obvious that this motorbike will be perfect for learners. So it was quite cheap. It was just under $2,000. It was a 2007 with just about friggin' 20,000 Ks on it, so it was quite low mileage, and I was quite impressed by its condition. It had been maintained by service at a bike shop, because the lady that owned it didn't know how to do work on it, so that was a thing. But I told my parents that I really want to get a motorbike, and I was like, hey, this one looks pretty good, and they're like, no, you're not getting it. So I was like, when they walked away, I'm like, fuck it, and I clicked buy now and bought it. I didn't tell them I bought this motorbike until the next day, and I got the money out the bank, and I was gonna go, the lady was gonna drop it off in her ute. So the motorbike was just gonna turn up at the doorstep, and I was gonna have the money, and it was gonna be my motorbike. I was gonna have a GN250, which would have been quite a nice bike, I still reckon. But about 6 hours before she was going to drop it off, I told my parents that I bought this motorbike and she's going to drop it off at my house, or our house, and they fucking hit the roof. They went absolutely ballistic at me. They were so determined that I wasn't allowed a motorbike. They got super pissed off at me. Wait for this car, guys. So anyway, what happened in the end was they rang up the owner and they said, hey, my son bought this motorbike and he's not allowed motorbikes. So they pretty much told her that we're not going to have it, so you can relist it, but we'll refund you the cost of having to relist it. I think it's like 60 bucks or some shit. So that was pretty gay. I never got my first motorbike. So after that situation, I'm like, hey, I really want a motorbike, but my parents aren't going to let me, so I'm just going to have to completely go behind their back and do it. Which is an arsehole move, I know, and to this day I don't regret it, because, like, fuck it, motorbikes have given me so much, eh? I love them. And the shit I had to go through to actually be riding today is quite a lot, but I fucking still think it's worth it. Okay, back to the story. I did research behind my parents' back once again, looking through Trade Me listings, and I saw this little Honda CG125 that City Honda was selling, and it was 1,600 bucks. So I went to City Honda, and I really liked the look of it, and it was in really good condition. All the parts were original, even though it was a 1985. It was in really good nick, eh? So I ended up buying this motorbike. Wait a second. Duck shooters, maybe? So I ended up buying this motorbike for $1,400. So I dropped the price down by 200 bucks by negotiation, which was pretty good. And I ended up getting this motorbike in my garage. I just bought it right home, and my parents couldn't really do anything about it, apart from rage at me for the next probably 4 or so months. So the next 4 months of my life was pretty gay, because I was constantly getting raged at by my parents. They're trying to get me to sell it, and I didn't really ride this bike that often because I just wanted to keep the peace in the house, so I only took it out occasionally in the weekend, and I spent a lot of time in the garage just tinkering with it and working on it. So it was December last year that I got my restricted license for my car, and I started to drive my little Mazda 121 to and from my job and stuff, to and from school a couple times. And in this time I got a lot of road experience. I got 5 months of road experience, and then by the time I've been driving for 5 months, and I'd also bought this little TW200 because my parents said it's okay if I ride off-road, and so I bought this motorbike here to ride off-road. And I'll take it on the road occasionally just to go down to the petrol station or go down to the supermarket for them. But basically what happened was, after getting some road experience, my parents were like, they finally accepted the facts that I love motorbikes and it's what I want to do with my spare time. You know, it's my escape from life. You can jump on your motorbike, go for a ride and just forget about everything. It's a big stress relief. Since riding motorbikes often, I haven't stressed at all. I don't seem to give a fuck about anything. So it's really good. And also, they're going on about safety of motorbikes, but I realized that was complete bullshit, because they were happy for me to ride my push bike to and from my job, and pretty much every week I would get into a situation where a car or truck would actually be a complete fucking asshole and put me into a situation where I felt endangered for my life. Like, I'm being serious here. There was cars and trucks passing me, and the side of the car was only about 20 centimeters away from my handlebars, and it's like, man, if you were just slightly to the left, I would have been knocked off my bike and probably killed. And there was also a situation where a Fonterra truck went past with a big trailer, and they started to pull back into the left-hand lane, but he didn't compensate for the length of his trailer, and the trailer fucking clipped my handlebar. There was like a little tip of a strop on the back of the trailer for some reason, and that shit whipped my hand on my handlebar. Holy fuck, that poo kicker nearly flew into me. But the thing is, I got centimeters from probably being injured or killed, and I'm like, fuck this. Because on a motorbike, I never got into these situations. In fact, till this day, I've only been in one situation on a motorbike where I thought my life could have been endangered. And I've done 6,500 Ks. So that's my little story about how I got into motorcycling. And from what I've learned, I still think it's worth it, even though I went through a lot of drama just to get onto a motorbike. And if anybody out there who's watching my video wants to get into motorbikes but their parents say no, mate, just go ahead and do it, because what the fuck are they going to do? Are they going to kick you out the house or what? Because I don't think any parent will make their child homeless just because of a motorbike. So my advice to you is just go ahead and buy it. You don't need to seek people's approval. If you know what you're doing, motorcycles are pretty safe. I reckon it's 95% of how you ride and 5% of what other people are doing. That's pretty cool. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little insight to how I got into motorbikes and how Walterific, good old Walter from Kansas, USA, got me really keen into buying motorbikes and starting to ride. So thanks to Walterific, you're the man. And to this day, you're my favourite moto vlogger, and I watch every single video with a big smile on my face.